Okay, let's unpack this. When you think about the world of Avatar Aang, Korra, the comics, the books, the whole huge canon, you probably picture amazing bending, great characters, maybe some spiritual stuff.
Right, and maybe something you feel is pretty family-friendly overall.
Exactly. But what if I told you that if you actually count up every single death mentioned or shown across that entire universe, the number is kind of shocking.
It absolutely is. We've been looking at this really interesting source. It's a super detailed compilation from a YouTube channel. They went through over 10,000 years of Avatar canon history.
10,000 years, wow.
Yeah, and they logged every single death they could track down and the final number. It definitely puts a different spin on that family-friendly idea.
Okay, I gotta know, what's the number?
21,375.
Whoa. Okay.
Yeah.
21,375 deaths.
That's us.
Yeah, that's a lot. That makes you look at the flying bison and the jokes a bit differently, maybe.
Sure.
So our mission here is to kind of walk you through this massive list. We want to explore who died, how, and really why this huge scale of death actually matters in the Avatar world. The source took a chronological approach, right?
Yeah, it goes right from the beginning through all the history, which is really helpful, actually.
Okay, so let's do that too. Let's start at the beginning.
Sounds good. And taking it chronologically, you really see that conflict and loss. They weren't just, wartime things. They've been part of this world since the absolute earliest days.
Right from the jump. The source mentioned some really ancient tragedies, like the children who were victims of Warlord Tad on the Fire Islands.
Yeah, he apparently kidnapped them when a village wouldn't pay tribute. They were just gone. The source calls them maybe the earliest known non-combat deaths.
And the follow-up to that is just devastating.
It really is. The mothers in that village, they died of sadness, just grief-stricken, lost the will to live. It's incredibly stark. Shows the deep emotional toll even back then.
And then, in a very sort of ancient spiritual twist, it comes back around to Taz himself.
Exactly. Dark spirits, the Chimera Cage, started haunting him, taking a child from his camp every night.
Wow. Karma, maybe?
Seems like it. His men deserted him, and the source notes he died totally alone, like a direct consequence for what he did. That spiritual connection was strong back then.
And that spirit-mortal connection shows up again with Lady Tainae.
Oh, right. She was a spirit fascinated by humans, so much so she chose to become human.
Knowing she'd die eventually.
Fully aware. She wanted to experience love, lived a full human life, and then died. But her spirit just changed form. It shows death wasn't always a final end,
We also hear about some of Avatar Wan's friends. Jaya, Yao, the huntsman.
Yeah, the source basically says they picked fights with spirits.
Right.
Which didn't end well for them, cost them their lives.
Note to self, don't pick fights with spirits.
Good policy. And then, of course, there's Wan himself, the very first Avatar.
How did he die?
After what the source calls a wicked battle, he was apparently apologizing to Rava, feeling like he failed.
But Rava reassured him.
Yeah, told him the cycle would continue through him. His death wasn't an end, it was the start of the Avatar cycle as we know it.
Okay, moving forward, thousands of years,
Mm-hmm.
there's this huge loss.
Mm-hmm.
The lion turtles.
Oh, yeah, that's a massive.
Yeah.
Over millennia, they were hunted almost to extinction. Just hunted down.
Do we know how many?
No specific number, but the deep dive emphasizes the sheer scale. It implies a colossal number died, changing the whole ecosystem. Only one is known to have survived.
Just one. Wow. That really shows the potential for destruction early on.
It does. And around the same ancient times, you get these contrasting figures like Guru Lahima.
The air nomad who could fly.
That's him. Achieved weightlessness, flew for 40 years, and then died. His death was tied to, spiritual transcendence.
Letting go. And then there's Shokin.
Right, an ancient philosopher. Had some controversial ideas, apparently, but died of old age. Nothing dramatic.
But people still studied him.
Yeah, the source notes avatars like Kyoshi and Yangshin looked into his work later. So even a quiet death can leave a legacy.
Okay, let's shift into the era of the early avatars. There is the story behind Omashu City.
Right, Shu and Oma. Shu was one of the first earthbenders, died in a battle between their villages.
And Oma, his lover, created the city.
Yeah, as a memorial base, a place built on overcoming that loss and conflict.
Then you have Avatar Sito, a bit different.
Yeah, served in the Fire Nation government, helped stabilize their finances, then just died of old age. A quieter kind of servant.
Followed by Yangjin.
Who's remembered as one of the best avatars. She also died peacefully of old age, paving the way for Kuruk.
And Kuruk, his story's rough, especially with Umi.
Oh, yeah. His love, Umi, pulled into the spirit world by her.
And the source counts this as a death, even though she wasn't technically killed.
Exactly. That's an interesting point they make, because she lost her physical body. She's gone from the mortal world forever, so they tally it. Makes you think about what death means when spirits are involved.
And that loss really affected Kuruk, didn't it?
Seems like it weighed on him hugely. He died super young, only 33, the youngest Avatar death.
Still looking for Umi.
Yeah, the source mentions he kept searching in the spirit world, and again they count his death because he left his mortal body.
After Kuuk, there's this big conflict with the Fifth Nation pirates.
Right. Kuruk's old friend, an airbender named Kelsang, summoned this massive storm.
Wiped out most of their fleet.
Yeah, killed their leaders, loads of soldiers, huge casualties from one bending act, though one guy, Tuluk, survived by avoiding the sea and died later of old age.
Interesting. And early Fire Nation. Some other deaths there.
A couple mentioned Suran died in childbirth, and Fire Lord Chiru died of old age, remembered well as Chiru of the Green Field.
Okay, now, the Kyoshi novels era. This is where things get really intense, right? The death count seems to spike.
Oh, definitely. It's a period full of political games, betrayal, and much more. Graphic violence.
Starts with Kyoshi herself, losing her parents.
Yeah. Herc and Jessa died from a terrible fever while they were traveling, a personal tragedy right at the start for her.
And Takaga, the Fifth Nation leader, she comes back.
She does, sets a trap, and this waterbender named Amak, who is disguised as an earthbender, gets killed. Pretty gruesome, impaled by an icicle.
Ouch. And Kyoshi's response?
Decisive and deadly. She raised the seafloor, crushed or drowned a lot of the remaining fleet, basically ended the Fifth Nation for good.
We also see some really precise, almost chilling murders, like Khao Sang.
Yeah, Jianzhu killed him instantly, just bent a tiny rock to slit his throat. Shows how lethal even small bending moves can be.
And the den, maybe the weirdest, darkest one. Yin and Father Glowworm.
Ugh, yeah. In the spirit world, Yin supposedly makes a truce with the spirit, Father Glowworm.
And man.
Immediately turns on him, crushes him, and the source highlights this detail. Yin then eats the spirit's eyeball to gain power.
Okay. Wow, that's really dark stuff.
It is. Back in the mortal world, there's Zhu Ping, leader of the Yellow Necks.
The crazy guy.
Yeah. He shot Rainy with lightning. Kyoshi, full Avatar state mode, just dropped him from way up high. Instant death on impact. Don't mess with the Avatar, especially when her friends are hurt.
And Yun's return to the mortal world. He goes on a rampage.
Totally. Calculated revenge killings. Remember that shop owner who wouldn't give him water earlier?
Yep.
Yun tracked him down, bent pottery into sharp blades, killed the owner and 5 patrons.
Jeez.
Then he killed a bodyguard who'd also refused him water. Just cold.
Jianzhu was also racking up a body count, right?
Oh, yeah. Killed Foreshadows Guan for not talking. And then poisoned Huey the Chamberlain in his sage's tea. Shows that bending isn't the only way to kill in this world.
And Lek's death sounds awful.
It really does. He got hit with those Shirsu spit darts paralyzed.
What Zenila uses.
Exactly. But he had an allergic reaction. Died slowly and painfully. Just horrible luck on top of it.
Jianzhu's end was pretty violent, too.
Yeah, Yun got his revenge. Jianzhu was fighting Kyoshi, got immobilized.
And Yun just showed up.
Yep. Crushed him with rock bending. Then the whole building collapsed on him. A very destructive end for him.
Yin wasn't done, though, was he? More revenge.
Still going after people who lied about him being the Avatar. Murdered Liu Beifong, left his body in a gallery.
And Chancellor Darren.
Mortally wounded him using bent pigment from portraits, like sharp pellets. The source says a healer basically considered him already dead. Super unique, brutal bending technique.
So how did Yun finally die?
In this epic battle with Kyoshi, he actually managed to stab Rangi.
Oh, no.
Yeah, but that pushed Kyoshi over the edge. She used her bending to drastically lower Yun's body temperature, froze his heart and lungs solid, ended his run right there.
Intense. Then there was Shin the Conqueror.
Another tyrant? His death was kind of ironic. Kyoshi split her homeland peninsula off from the mainland, that huge earthbending feat.
Right.
And Shin just stubbornly refused to move his army off the edge, so he fell to his death.
Wow. Just wouldn't back down.
Nope. And finally, Kyoshi herself. She lived a long time. An incredibly long time. The source confirms she died at 230 years old.
200.
And apparently, the creators made a math error initially, but the novels explained it later. Some kind of immortality technique, but even that had its limits. Eventually, mortality catches up even to someone like Kyoshi.
Okay, that brings us to the 100-Year War, a period everyone knows is just full of death.
Undeniably. Defined by global conflict, massive loss, it's a whole different scale.
And it really kicks off with Avatar Roku's death.
Absolutely pivotal. He's fighting a volcano, gets overwhelmed by toxic gas.
And Fire Lord Sozin, his friend,
abandons him, just leaves him there. Roku and his dragon fang are engulfed by the lava and ash. That betrayal, that death, it's the catalyst for the entire war.
Sozin then uses the comet.
Right. So Nozin's comet arrives, and he uses that power boost to launch the Air Nomad genocide, a deliberate, targeted attack to wipe out the next potential Avatar and all the Airbenders.
That accounts for a huge number of deaths, obviously.
Almost all of them. The source name specific victims we know, like the Air Nomad leaders, Monk Yakso, Pasang, Tashin.
Gyaso, Aang's father figure.
Exactly. And Aang's friends from the flashbacks, like Jinju, also Sister Ilo and Monk Tangzu, mentioned for things they did right before they died, individual stories within the mass tragedy.
And the comic showed they hunted down survivors, too.
Yeah, set traps using relics to lure any who escaped the initial attack, captured and killed them. It was methodical and brutal, almost total annihilation.
So Fazenda himself eventually died, though.
Of old age, yeah. After spending decades hunting for the avatar he missed, his legacy is just destruction. The genocide plus hunting dragons nearly to extinction.
Iroh saved the dragons, didn't he, by lying?
Exactly. Claimed he killed the last one, but secretly let them live.
Amidst all this huge-scale war, there are those really personal deaths, too, like Katara and Sokka's mother, Kaya.
Right. Killed by Commander Yan Ra of the Southern Raiders, a direct consequence of the Fire Nation raids on the Southern Water Tribe, trying to wipe out the waterbenders.
And Iroh's son, Lieutenant Hannah.
Yeah, killed in combat during the siege of Ba Sing Se. Died before Iroh could even reach him. That loss fundamentally changed Iroh, turned him away from the Fire Nation's path.
Then there's Fire Lord Aslan, Ozai's father.
His death was dramatic, poisoned by Ozai.
Ozai killed his own father.
With poison Ursa made, actually. It was part of a deal to save Zuko's life after Ozai wanted him dead. A palace coup, essentially, letting Ozai take the throne.
The source also lists smaller wartime death, like some prison guards.
Yeah, the prison rig captain and 5 soldiers tossed overboard. And Han, that guy Zuko argued with, thrown overboard by Admiral Zhao. Presumed drowned or died on impact.
Zhao. Oh, okay, his attack on the Northern Water Tribe, that was huge. He killed the Moon Spirit.
He did. Struck Tui, the moon spirit, with a fire blast, killing its mortal form.
But Prince says you saved it.
Exactly. She had been given life by the moon spirit as a baby, so she gave her life force back, sacrificing herself to restore Tui, a life for a spirit.
And in the middle of all that, Aang merged with the ocean spirit, La.
Yeah, it became this giant water monster thing, took out about 50 Fire Nation soldiers in that state, direct casualties from that spiritual fusion.
Now, Zhao's fate, the source says it doesn't count as death, even though he's dragged into the spirit world.
Right, this is a key distinction they make. The ocean spirit dragged him into the fog of lost souls, but crucially, according to the source, Zhao retained his mortal body. Trapped, maybe mindless, but his physical form wasn't destroyed or left behind like others, so not counted in the 21,000 plus life.
Interesting distinction. What about Professor Zai, the guy in the library?
Ah, yeah, the scholar in Wan Shitong's library. He chose to stay when the library sank back into the spirit world, dedicated himself to knowledge until he eventually died there, a death chosen for knowledge.
The source even includes some otter ones, like
yeah.
a circus ringleader.
Yeah. Sent flying by Appa. The source notes he likely died from the fall. Incidental, but still counts.
And Jet, his death is debated, right?
Highly debated online. But this source leans towards him dying. They cite how severe Long Feng's earthbending attack was, plus he just vanishes from the story completely. They conclude he likely died from those injuries.
Okay, then there's Aang himself, when Azula shot him with lightning.
Yeah, in the Avatar state, the source is clear. He was dead. His spirit left his body. The connection was severed.
But Katara brought him back.
With the special spirit water from the North Pole, an extraordinary resurrection, highlighting just how close he came to permanent death, ending the cycle right there.
Combustion Man. Sparky Boom Man.
Met his end thanks to Sokka. Sokka hit his third eye tattoo with the boomerang.
Right when he was about to fire.
Exactly. Caused his own combustion power to backfire, basically blew himself up. Plus the fall. Dead.
There was Gillick, too, from the Southern Water Tribe.
Yeah, a rebel leader fighting alongside Hakoda. Refused Hakoda's help during a fight on a cliff. Fell to his death. Died partly due to his own pride.
Yeah, man. Bosco the bear.
Ugh, yeah. The Earth King's pet bear. The source includes this rather grim detail from the comic. The new Earth Queen, Hao Ting. She apparently ate.
Ate Bosco. Oh, that's awful.
Yeah, really unpleasant end for a loyal.
Okay, let's move into the Legend of Korra era. The world's changed, but death is still a factor.
Absolutely. Different kinds of conflict now, political upheaval, crime, ideological battles, but still dead.
We see Iroh again, but his fate is counted differently than Zhao's.
Right. Iroh chose to leave his mortal body behind and ascend fully into the spirit world before dying.
So why does the source count that as death?
Because he permanently left his physical body. That's the source's key criterion. Unlike Zhao, whose body remained, the source actually calls Iroh's choice a perfect end for his character finding peace and wisdom there.
Gotcha. Then there's Yakon, a bloodbender.
Yeah, the crime lord from Republic City's past died prematurely. The source suggests it was from losing hope after his son No Attack ran away, like despair killed him.
And Avatar Aang himself. How did he die? It seemed young.
It was biologically young, yeah, only 66. The deep dive explains it wasn't just old age. It was the strain of being frozen in the iceberg for 100 years. It used up a lot of his life.
So that's why he died younger than, say, Kyoshi.
Exactly. It allowed the cycle to continue relatively on schedule with Korra.
The Korra era has some really tragic personal losses, too, tied to the city.
That's Aang's mother.
Yusuko Sato, killed during a raid on their home by the Agnikai triad, straight-up organized crime violence hitting home.
And Mako and Bolin's parents.
San and Naoki, killed in a mugging on the streets when the brothers were just kids, shows the dangers of poverty and crime in Republic City.
Stoka's death is meant.
Yeah, just noted that he died of old age after a long, very accomplished life, a more peaceful end than many others.
But then, Tarlok and Noatak, Amon, their end was anything to...
No kidding. A really dark final moment. They're escaping on a boat, and Tarlok uses blood bending to grab Noatak, then takes an equalist love and electrocutes the boat's fuel tank.
Killing them both. A murder-suicide. Exact. Tarlok chose to end their bloodline, seeing it as cursed by bloodbend. A truly shocking.
More incidental deaths, too. Like fishermen.
Yeah, a ship sunk by a spirit, just showing those ancient dangers haven't completely vanished.
Even Rava, the spirit of light, had a brush with death.
Temporarily, yeah. During the fight with Unalaq fused with Vatu, Unalaq hit Rava with a water whip, seemingly destroying her.
But she came back.
Reborn from the light within Vatu, actually. It shows that cycle of destruction and rebirth applies even to fundamental spirits.
And Unalaq and Vatu themselves, the dark avatar.
Vanquished by Korra during harmonic convergence, their fused form was destroyed, resulting in their final deaths.
Zahir's escape caused deaths too, right? When he and his group broke out.
Immediately. 8 White Lotus guards killed by Zahir himself during his escape. Ghazan killed 6, Minghua killed 3, direct casualties from their breakout.
What about Aiwei, the truth seer?
Zahir caught him in the spirit world while Aiwei was projected. Zahir threw his spirit into the fog of lost.
And the source counts this one as death, like Aero.
Yes, because Aiwei's spirit was permanently separated from his still living mortal body. So, like Iroh leaving his body, Aiwei effectively left his behind forever in that fog. Again, unlike Zhao.
Okay, that distinction is becoming clearer. And the Earth Queen, Ho Ting, the one who ate Bosco.
She got a pretty chilling death. Zahir, using his newly acquired airbending, literally pulled the air out of her lungs, suffocated her.
As a political statement.
Exactly. A very public assassination to declare the fall of tyranny, in his view.
Brutal. The rest of the Red Lotus died too, didn't they?
In that final battle, yeah. Keely, the combustion bender, Suin Bafam bent her metal armor around Peely's head just as she fired.
So her own blacked.
Killed her instantly. Minghua, the water armless bender, Mako electrocuted her in a pool of water.
And Ghazan, the lava bender.
He chose death over capture. Trapped by Mako and Bolin, he collapsed the entire lava-filled cave on himself, sacrificed himself. Mako and Bolin barely escaped.
And in the final season, against Kuvira.
More casualties. Watchtower guards blown up by the laser on Kuvira's giant mecha suit shows the destructive power of that new technology.
And Hiroshi Sato, Asami's dad.
He had a really powerful redemption arc end. He sacrificed himself, using his machines to cut a hole in the mecha giant so Korra could get inside.
Ejecting Asami first.
Yeah, told her he loved her, ejected her pod, and then died in the process. A true sacrifice.
And even after the main conflict, more deaths.
Just to mention from the comics, Viper, the leader of the Triple Threats gang, and some others were killed when Takuga took over the game. Crime continues.
So, adding all of that up, individuals, groups like the Air Nomads, the Lion Turtles, unnamed soldiers, victims, that brings us back to that number.
21,375 deaths. Across the whole canon, as tallied by this deep dive source. It's staggering.
It really is. Seeing it all laid out like this, chronologically, it completely changes how you look at the Avatar universe, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It's still got wonder, hope, amazing characters, but it's also undeniably a world shaped by constant conflict, the weight of power, immense loss, and sacrifice.
Yeah, tracking it from ancient spirits and warlords through political murders, genocide, huge wars, right up to, like, modern crime and technological warfare. It makes it feel so much deeper and honestly darker than just a kid's show.
For sure. And this source, just by doing the counting, really forces you to see that thread of mortality woven through the entire history, how much it impacts everything.
So we've gone through thousands of years, thousands of deaths, famous names, villains, heroes, countless unnamed people caught in the crossfire.
It's quite a journey through loss.
It really is, and it leaves you thinking.
Definitely. And maybe final thought for you, just based on everything we've covered from this source, the Avatar cycle itself, the core of this world, is literally built on death and rebirth, right?
Yeah, the Avatar dies, is reborn,
So, given that fundamental cycle for the main hero, and then adding the sheer volume of death discussed for everyone else, often violent, often tragic, how does that constant presence of mortality shape the whole philosophy? What does it mean for characters to fight for balance and hope when life seems so frequently taken, yet rebirth beginnings are